G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Leonard Scheiner from Geek Haus. He's based in Los Angeles, United States. Thanks for your time today, Leonard.
Thanks so much, Troy. It's a great pleasure being here.
Let's start with how we know each other. We both use the Podmatch platform to find podcasts to get guests to come on and also to be a guest on other casts. So thank you.
Podmatch is a great platform. I'm excited to be connected with you and so many other wonderful shows as well.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yeah. So I run a full service legal marketing agency. And so we help law firms and lawyers brand, market, and grow their firms. And so we work with attorneys in California, in other states, and really the entire world, I guess we could say that. We just finished a master series where we had experts from Australia, the UK, as well as a bunch from the US. And so primarily, though, our clients are within the US.
Right. So you've niched down into the legal sector. That's a great move.
Yeah.
How did you start out?
So I have been in legal marketing for probably about 10 years now, maybe 11 years. And I was in-house at many different firms, everything from civil litigation, business, real estate, all the way to immigration, and then personal injury and bankruptcy and kind of everything in between. And so that really allowed me to get a good footing for what works for B2C type law firms, what works for B2B law firms. The things that work in immigration do not work in bankruptcy and vice versa, right? So I loved doing that work. I loved helping attorneys who help other people. So that's kind of my thing, is I like helping people, and I figure out that the easiest way to do that is help people who help people. And so yeah, that's how we started. And so from that experience, I was in-house at law firms and then started the agency that helps law firms.
And what year did you start out and how old were you then?
I started in 2019 and I was in my late 20s.
Yep. And do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth?
Well, our clients are our main focus. So on our client growth side of things, definitely. I always look at marketing budgets and return on investment, and I treat a client's money like my own, because whether we're deploying it in organic methods or whether we're going into some type of pay-per-click PPC campaign, it's still marketing dollars that are being spent. It's coming out of someone's account. And so key numbers that we have done, one of our marketing campaigns for a consumer firm did over 300% on return on investment.
Right.
So it was like 330%, somewhere around there. And so that was awesome because it was only one marketing campaign and they were able to generate over $1 million from just that one campaign. Another client who is on the B2B side, so they don't serve consumers, they're working with business owners. And on that side of things, we had a 4.7x return on their marketing dollars, which is amazing, right? For every dollar they gave us, we in theory gave them back $4.70.
Yep.
And this is always funny to share with people, because when I get the question, what should be my marketing budget? It's like, well, it's not a number, it's a formula, right? Yeah. So yeah, those are some of our stats.
And do you do any traditional marketing, or it's just all digital?
traditional as in like bus ads and print stuff and yeah, we definitely do that. It usually is a supplemental to digital, just because we're here in the digital age. Most of the clients are on a digital roadmap.
Yeah.
Whether they're consumer firms going after consumers like personal injury or bankruptcy or divorce or criminal defense, or whether they're business firms going after business owners or helping an employer, defend their employment claims, or on that B2B side of things. Either one of those, we're usually looking at a digital first strategy. And then we take the approach of doing traditional type marketing for them.
Great. And how many team members did you start with, full-time equivalents to where you're at now?
So before I founded Geek Haus, it was, Leonard, and Leonard was doing Leonard's thing. And I had a VA that was with me part-time, and she's still with me today. She's awesome. And we literally were building everything from the ground up, right? That's what you do with the new business. And so everything from like our domain and everything else, right? Like literally starting at ground zero. And so I started with a part-time VA, and then now we've got about 5 or 6, a core team of about 5 or 6 people that are really involved in moving our clients' projects forward. And then we've got a whole list of different contractors and different vendors that we use for various things. Yeah, so half-time VA to now a good amount of handful of people.
Right. When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Has that happened yet? No. So success is fleeting, right? I was years ago, before the agency started, I was working my way up in the marketing world of things. And I remember I got to, director of marketing, CMO, and I was like the top dog in that firm.
Yeah.
And I had a window office on Wilshire in Los Angeles, and, 6-figure salary and this perk and that perk. All of it was great. But I remember being in my office one day and being able to see the Hollywood sign and, see the beach, and like literally had everything on paper. And I was like, I'm not happy. Like, this is not the feeling that I'm feeling, doesn't match the check boxes that we've checked off on paper.
Yeah.
And so it was in that moment where I started realizing, like, okay, what does happiness mean? What does success mean? And so to answer your question directly, what is success, or when did that happen? I think it's been happening, and we're along for the ride.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect question for you. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Number one thing I'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business. So if you're growing fast, one of the things, it's always like twofold, right? We want new clients because we want new revenue, we want to grow, but then we also have to make sure that the infrastructure can handle that. This is one of the key things that I talk about with solo practitioners or small law firm owners, is if it's just them and one other person, if I give you 300 leads a month, you're going to drown.
Yep.
It doesn't match. So we need to have some correlation between what's coming in from your marketing and what you can actually handle, the capacity, the infrastructure of the business. And so for fast growing companies, the way that we want to market them, or the smartest way to market, is look at what's working and then double down on it, right? If you've had success with something, go repeat that success. Go repeat that campaign, because you're going to duplicate what the results that have already been done. So that's the number one thing that I say to firms. And, when I'm on consultations with prospective clients, I want to know what's working. I also want to know what's not. But if we're looking at growing the fastest, take what's working and optimize it. right? We're not going to do the exact same thing, but if we can have someone like myself with a marketing mind look at what you're already doing and pull this lever and tweak that knob and increase the conversions or the sales or whatever the metric is, that's a win. That's a huge win.
How did you fund your business?
Out of my pocket.
So you haven't taken investors on or needed bank finance or anything like that?
No, I've actually been quite blessed in having the ability to bootstrap and fund things myself. It's actually one of the skills that I think I learned working in different law firms. They're usually smaller type businesses. And even if they have a big impact and big numbers and big results, usually the core it's small. And so I'm very adept at bootstrapping things. How do we do things the smartest way? What's our return on this? If we've got a laundry list of 10 things to do, which ones are going to have us take the fastest path to cash, right? Like, that's what we really need to be focused on. So no, I actually have never been asked that question, but yeah, self-funded. So that's fun.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
But I go into the same industry if I had a lot of funding. Yeah. I love what I do. Honestly, it goes back to my impact as a human, as a CEO. I want to help the most amount of people. That's what gets me up every day. And so if I can help people, those being attorneys, help people who help people, yeah, I would go into this every single time. It would look a little bit different though. If we were super well funded, yeah, the path would be different, right? But yeah, same industry.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
The most stressful point. So, I mean, I'll be totally transparent. Not every campaign that me as a marketer and not every campaign that any marketer does is a home run.
Yeah.
And so we get a little in our head. I get a little bit in my head when, we've got great clients and we're running campaigns for them and they're working. And then I will try a new campaign for the agency, something new, and it flops. And it's like, gosh, like I'm supposed to be the marketer, right? So it's like, if my marketing isn't working, like, how does that work for our clients, right? And so the takeaway from that though is you're never just running one campaign ever, right? Like ever. So if I'm running, for example, if I'm running a cold email campaign and it's working great, awesome. Now let's start a paid campaign, right? Or vice versa. Or if I'm doing an email campaign that's working great, awesome. Let's double down on that. Let's do more of it, but also have another campaign, another prong to go to bat with. And so I think the most stressful point in my business is kind of twofold. I guess I have two stressful points is when campaigns aren't working, right? That's like the fundamental item of a marketing agency. It's like a pizza place not having cheese or tomato sauce. Like, what are you doing? You know? So that's a stressful point, but we overcome that. We work with that. And then the other stressful point is when you've got clients that for whatever reason are upset or they're not happy, right? And so as a business owner, that's going to happen. Whether you have 5 clients or 50 clients or 500 clients, you're going to have some clients that are not happy. And so I approach that from a point of my own leadership of, okay, you're unhappy. This is neutral. How do we work through this, right? Does that look like adjusting something? Does that look like, a myriad of different solutions? But it's really being in ownership of yourself and approaching the situation as a CEO.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
So managing growth in a business is always a tricky task because we want to throttle it to be incremental, versus a tidal wave that you get drowned by. So the thing that I've enjoyed the least about managing a growing company is, I guess, keeping up with all of the balls that are in the air, right? Like there's always something new, there's always something going on. And unless you're very organized and structured, which I think I'm decently organized and structured, but it's definitely my least favorite arena when I feel unprepared or when I feel like I don't know what's going on with something. And so the way that we've overcome that is put systems in place. And that actually takes a little bit more of me, personal Leonard, than it does Leonard, the CEO, right? Yep. So, like, you want to be nice to everyone, you want to be pleasant, but at some point, the foot's got to come down, and it doesn't have to be harsh, but it has to be firm. And so, I guess this is my roundabout way to getting the least. My roundabout way to what I enjoy the least about managing a growing company is handling the different personalities. I want to be pleasant and I want to be respectful and friendly with everyone. And sometimes as the CEO, you have to take off that friend cap and put on the business owner cap. And I think for many business owners, myself included, that's sometimes difficult to do because you have to be firm. You have to be sometimes not super nice.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
I could probably say the same thing, the people, right? Yeah. So they're sometimes a difficult feat to manage, but on the positive side, it's amazing when you take someone, like I think about my VA, right? She knew nothing, she had her own skills, but she didn't know anything about working inside of the agency. And now I look at her now and she's like a firecracker, like that's amazing. What I love most about growing a small business, a fast-paced growing business, is the clients. I love getting results for great clients because ultimately that means that they are able to impact more people. And if they're doing good, we're doing good. We like that situation.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
This is a deep one. So sure, you and I could go on for a long time. I alluded to it a little bit earlier, but the biggest mindset shift I think that I've had in myself is that my worthiness does not come from the business.
Yep.
As an employee, you're really in tuned with that, right? Like, oh, you've got a bad boss, you've got a good boss, right? But you clock in, you clock out, and you kind of leave that at the office. And as a small business owner, it's so intimately tied to your workday, your finances, the mood, right? Like if you have a great call, you're in a good mood. If you have a bad call, you're in a bad mood. Like the business is so fundamentally tied to you as a human that sometimes they're almost blended as one. And so throughout the process of building Geek Haus, I have had to separate the feelings that I'm feeling or separate, the performance or separate results or any of that stuff. I've had to separate that from myself because if I let that get very intertwined, I would be up and down like a roller coaster, right? Yeah. Like good conversation, I'm high as a kite. Bad conversation, we're low as a goat. Like you can't sustain that as a business owner and have a happy life as well, right? So that's one of the mindset shifts is about worthiness and, the business doesn't dictate yourself.
Number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Consistency. As a business owner, we are in charge of ourselves. And one habit that a small business owner can do and work towards for themselves is having consistency. that's going to look different for everyone. Is that, consistency in posting every day on social? Maybe. Is that consistency on getting up and getting onto your laptop at X time every morning? Is that consistency with emailing your list a few times a week? Whatever that consistency looks like for the business and the business owner, there should be a system in place. So it's a little bit of accountability as well, right? I don't think accountability is a habit, but accountability can help you establish or maintain a habit. So the habit would definitely be consistency.
Do you love talking small business growth with other owners? We have a vibrant online community from many industries around the world. Plus, we regularly add new tools and resources for community members and host 2 webinars a month to help you grow your small business. growsmallbusiness.com. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Yeah, definitely. So when I've added team members in the past, I like to do a good amount of due diligence before bringing someone on board. I think that that's only respectful for the agency and our clients, but that's also respectful to that person, right? And so I've had situations before where I've been in an interview and I'm interviewing someone and they're great. And then we say, today's a whatever day, let's start in 2 days. Great, let's schedule the time, la, la, la. And then the next day you get an email saying, hey, I don't think I'm a good fit for that. And I'm left thinking we had a great conversation. We agreed to everything. We set something in the future for our first training, our onboarding, our first day. And somewhere in the midst of that, they determined that that wasn't the right fit. Now, maybe they got a call from Warren Buffett offering to pay them $1 million a year. Okay, great. Take that offer. Or maybe they were, not really aligned. They were going for it, and then they just really sunk into who they are and said, that's not the future step in my path. And that's okay. I'd actually rather know that before we spend hours upon hours of training and then we find that out, right? So although that's could be looked at as a mistake or a con, like we could look at that in different ways, but I choose to look at that as kind of a win, because here's my thought is if that person self-identified that they weren't a right fit a day after us talking and a day before they were supposed to start, then one thing, I must have missed something in that interview because that should have come out. But I also look at it from a place of, okay, like, it's neutral. And so, it is a win, actually, because we came out of there positively.
I was going to say, you said at the start of that answer that you do more due diligence on the person now. So maybe explain to the audience what you do to help get those better candidates before you even, interview them.
Yeah. So whether I'm finding contractors on a digital marketplace or I'm, I actually, one of the people who's on our team now, it was difficult to find them. And so I had a friend of mine go into her Facebook groups, very unconventional way to find someone. And we were connected through that way, right? And so some of the things that I do with people in the beginning to have a good amount of due diligence is have them jump through a few hoops. I'm not saying, that they've got to be able to jump 20 feet in the air, but reasonable things, right? Like if you're saying, give me, attach your resume in a PDF, and they attach it in a Word file. Okay, you don't follow directions.
No.
And I know that. And am I going to have some sympathy or like, well, maybe it was just this one time they didn't? No.
Got to be brutal. Absolutely. And
it's a bit brutal.
Yeah, I've had guests on that say so I can't remember what industry it was, but attention to detail is very important. It might have been actually a legal firm. I think it was a legal firm. And they actually deliberately put some errors in the job ad or a test project that they give because they want the A players, the stars, to actually point out and say, oh, but here's the project. By the way, there are 3 grammatical errors in this, because that's it's part of their job. They've got to have a really good, close attention to detail in the legal field. So I totally agree with you. The more hurdles you can do, they don't have to be massive like that, the better chance you're going to have of picking an A player.
Yeah, the borderline there that I draw for myself is I don't want to put someone through a hurdle or something that I wouldn't want to go through. So I've been in situations before where, when I was being hired as an employee and they were like, take this personality test, and it's like 90 questions, like, get out of here. Like, I don't want, give me 12 questions or something, right? Like, so there's definitely like a reasonable, there's like black and white of what's acceptable and not, and then there's like a gray area. So something like send your resume in a PDF versus a Word. If they send it in a Word, they didn't follow directions, right? Another item, I draw that line between, white and black, like what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. There's a gray area. So how I make that determination for myself is this a hurdle or a hoop that I myself would be willing to jump through? If we're sending a personality test, it shouldn't be 99 questions. It should be 9. Right? Like, we want to get a sense of it, a sense of the person, but we don't want them to labor and have a bad taste in their mouth about us as someone that they're interviewing with. So yeah, there's definitely some diligence there. Another thing that I look for is, if we've scheduled an interview, do they confirm back? Right? Either the day before they confirm, kind of like a doctor confirms his appointments the day before, or do they not, right? And if they don't, that's okay, because it's on both of our calendars. But part of being a business owner is evaluating the best choice to fill that role. And so if I've got a pool of 10, 20, 30 people, and 3 or 4 or 5 of them confirm with me their appointment, who is going to stand out? Those. Because I think that they're punctual, I think that they're on it, and my assumption is that if they're confirming their own appointments if they're hired, when they're hired, they're going to confirm appointments within the agency. So yeah, I like that.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Culture is so big right now, and it gets so much buzz in the media, in the press, and it's a little bit of a fluffy term. And I think it's fluffy because people don't know what culture is, right? We think about culture, and it's in a small business, oftentimes the culture is set by the personality of the person in charge. And in a small business, that's usually where it stops. When we're in big businesses like Facebook and Google, we talk about culture, right? It's like a hustle culture. It's an overwork culture. It's a positive culture. It's an inclusive culture. There's an array of different feelings that we can have with that. But as it relates to a sustainable, awesome culture in a small business, it comes down to you. It comes down to the business owner. And so I'd encourage anyone that's listening to this who owns their own business to think about how they set the culture standard in that business. I run Geek Haus, and 100%, I know that I set the culture for Geek Haus. Doesn't matter who comes and goes, doesn't matter the performance for the clients, doesn't matter if it's Tuesday and sunny or Thursday and dark outside. I and my personality pretty much alone set that culture. So when I'm getting on team calls, when I'm getting, even when I'm like chatting with people on staff, I'm conscientious about how I'm speaking about things. I want to give constructive criticism. I don't want to I don't want to make them wrong because they weren't trying to do it wrong, right? They were trying to do it right, and they were trying to do it right for the business. So why would I approach them in a negative way, right? I'm going to approach them constructively. And then if it is a problem, whether that's personal performance or what have you, I'm going to do it with empathy, because no one gets up in the morning thinking, I'm going to go cross problems today. Just
Yeah,
doesn't happen.
that's right.
So,
Yeah. Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
work-life balance. So I like to take a different approach to this as most people. I think a lot of agency owners will say, work hard, play hard, right? We usually hear that. Or we'll say, I've got protected weekends. So it's like, the weeks are for work and then the weekends, no work. And that's wonderful. I think that as an employee, you're really able to do that because you clock in and clock out. For small business owners, it's a little bit different. We are the business. And so I take a blended approach. So on my vacations, I take my laptop for sure. Do I always open it? No. But if I needed to, it's there. And so part of that is part of achieving a live work balance is how do we set up systems to eliminate the fires in our business? How do we set up systems to offload and delegate things so that we're not working 80 hours a week? So I think systems and delegation are essential foundational blocks of a live work balance. But also it comes down to myself, like my work tolerance. I enjoy working, so I'll probably work more than someone who doesn't enjoy working, and I'm perfectly fine with that. So I take the blended approach.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
So much professional, so much professional development, professional, personal. There's a saying, and I don't know where there's a quote, and I don't know where it comes from, but it goes something like, your business will never evolve more or farther than you do as a person.
Yep.
And I firmly believe that. I know that when my own personal development has up leveled, so has my business.
Yep.
Because it's how I show up, right? Whether it's professional development and we're learning more like tactics and skills about the area, or we're learning about how to be a better human and how to communicate clearer and how to not sweat the petty stuff and that type of thing. So in terms of how much I've done, I love to attend trainings. I love to watch like videos online. And I always think that having a good book around, I'm not talking about Leagues Under the Sea where it's super thick, but I'm talking about business books that are, weekend reads, and you can gather some pretty good information from those. And so I like to do that. There's a great book called Exactly What to Say. And it's an easy read. It's insightful. It's good information.
What's that focus on? Is it communicating more effectively?
I'm actually going to pull it up. Yeah, Exactly What to Read, or sorry, Exactly What to Say by Phil Jones. And it goes over some of the ways that you can communicate your ideas and your influence and your impact clearer, yep, or land it better. It's a little bit based in persuasion. And the caveat there is, we've got to be tactful and responsible with the skills that we have.
Yes.
But, if we're opening up someone's vision for what they want to create, and I experience this a lot with solo law firm owners, solo attorneys, is they want to serve clients, they want to grow, they want to do whatever, but they're missing the sales and influence aspect. So they might do great work. They might be zealous advocates for their client. They might write the most convincing motion for the court ever. But if they can't get the client, or they can't land their idea with opposing counsel, or they can't communicate in a way that is productive, we've got a problem.
Yeah.
Lawyers go to law school to learn how to think and how to communicate. So, lawyers are a step above most people when it comes to landing communication. But many of us could use a brush up on that, myself included, which is why I read the book and I loved it.
Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
Of course. A mentor is a great relationship to get guidance. I think of a mentor who is 10, 20 years ahead of you, and you can emulate them, get feedback from them. Maybe you just watch them. Maybe it's not a relationship, but if you have a relationship, that's even better. I was actually consulting with an attorney who runs her own practice a few weeks ago, and she was like, I was on one track in my career, and then I had a mentor who said one thing, and it totally pivoted my trajectory. So yeah, mentors are huge. And then on the coaching side of things, if you're not measuring something and you're not tracking it, it's not going to grow. It's not going to change. It's not going to improve. So one of the best ways that you can use a coach as a resource is coming to them with a specific problem. So I'm not floundering around in the middle of the ocean wanting a coach or a business advisor to solve all my problems, right? That's not their job. It's my business. It's your business. We are the problem solvers. We're the key problem solvers in our business. But the way that we can work with a coach in the most impactful way, and so that we're receiving the most great advice, is to come to them with a specific problem. So that might look like, hey, I need help in sales, right? That also might look like, hey, I need help in branding. Like I don't feel like we have a good brand, an online brand, an online presence. It could also be something like, during sales calls, I feel like we go through our process and then at the end they want to work with us, but then they ghost us.
Yeah.
Like, okay, as focused as we can be with the challenge, we don't want to call them problems because we can overcome them, but be very transparent and very precise as we can be with our challenge that's ahead of us, because then we're going to get some really focused, tailored coaching, and that's what's going to take us forward.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
I do not. I have a group of friends who are also in the digital agency marketing consulting space. And so, different industries. One works for auto dealerships, the other one works for real estate, realtors and real estate investors. I do law firms. And so, all of us kind of put together, we can come up with some great strategies, and we actually act as somewhat of coaches for each other, right? There's no official relationship, and sometimes there doesn't have to be, but your advisors, or who you think of as your board of directors, is, the people who you take advice from, the people whose opinion you value. And so I don't have that in a established official capacity, but yeah, it's great to have other people to support your growth.
All right, Leonard, we're on our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
The hardest thing in growing a small business is definitely twofold. 1, getting new clients, and 2, delivering results for those clients. I mean, that's any business, right? Client acquisition is always something that needs to be ongoing. And then delivering on those results is also something that's ongoing. So both of those are, the 2 difficult things, but also the 2 most rewarding.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
Yeah. I would say Exactly What to Say.
Yep. Any great podcast?
It's a great book.
Yeah, I'm going to add that one to my list. Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I like to listen to Amy Porterfield. She has the Marketing Made Easy podcast. It's pretty industry agnostic in that what she talks about kind of applies across industries. And so I enjoy her as a person. I think she's wonderful and great, but also her knowledge is pretty focused. And I've noticed we're talking a lot about focused knowledge today, and that's really what it comes down to, right? So I like her podcast because she'll talk about something that is relevant, but she won't just scrape the surface. She'll go deep on it. And she'll talk about how she failed and about how she won. And she'll really give a lot of meat to it. And, that's from a content perspective. And then from an ease of listening perspective as well, she starts her episodes and she ends them kind of the same. And, she's even admitted that she not scripts every word, but they're pretty tailored in her production value. And I'm not saying everyone has to have her level of production value, but learning from her with that level of production value definitely increases my patience for sticking around. Yep. So yeah, Amy Porterfield's podcast, awesome.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
One tool I would recommend. So there's a difference between your CRM, which is usually how you manage your email list, and you can blast emails out from there, like ActiveCampaign, MailChimp, there's a whole bunch of them. But that I've seen many a time, small businesses will use that to track their sales. And that's great if that has the ability to do that and you've got a system for that. But I have realized that one of the tools that's been most impactful is having a sales pipeline software specifically, so that when you're in there, you're not looking at all your other email campaigns and this and that and whatever. You're purely looking at a Kanban board of new leads that came in. Did they schedule their consult? Did they have a follow-up? Do we need to get them documents? Did they sign, etc.? Like, we want to see that progression. And that helps us, that tool alone helps you grow your business, because it's a tool that's sales focused, not communications focused.
Which tool, so like a sales process wise, do you use or recommend?
Yeah, so for us and all of our clients for that CRM, we use ActiveCampaign.
Yep.
It's awesome. I love it. And then on the sales pipeline or the sales tracking side, we use Pipedrive.
Yep.
So in Pipedrive, you can see things very clearly. You can have different pipelines, which is great if you've got a few different businesses or different offerings that you have. Yeah.
Final and my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
I had to look back to when we opened the virtual doors to Geek Haus. I would tell myself, this is not going to be easy, but it's so going to be worth it. The freedom that you get being a small business owner is incomparable to really anything when you're an employee. And I'm bringing up that relationship a lot during our time today, because for many small business owners, I've even experienced that in consulting with solo attorneys. They like want to do their own thing, but then maybe they'll go get a job, or they sit on the fence.
Yeah.
And listen, I get it. Everyone has to put food on the table. Everyone has to pay their expenses every month. But if you're able to transition from being an employee to being a business owner, and you can do that in a way that works, I would tell myself 1,000 times, do it.
Yep.
Puts you in charge.
Yep. Fantastic. Thanks for your time today, Leonard. I think the audience got a lot of value out of what you shared with us. Congratulations on your growth so far, starting in 2019, 1.5 team members to now around 5 or 6, and very focused and niching down into the legal sector.
Thank you, Troy. It's been a pleasure talking. Thanks for having me.
And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcasts to help with their growth will find us.